Hey, just before this video gets underway, I just want to quickly apologize. A bit of an error. So the video is only showing my SuperCoach team. I did have my fantasy team up as well, but it actually wasn't showing that screen. And it's just showing the SuperCoach screen. But all the information is in this video. I discuss both the SuperCoach side of things and fantasy side of things, so the information is still all there. So hopefully you still enjoy the video. Thanks. Hi, welcome to Fantasy Footy Fan. It's Jeff here. I was able to find some time to put this quick video together. I just wanted to discuss my official trades for this week and a few things that have come up that I didn't actually get a chance to raise in my previous videos. So I'm looking at both SuperCoach and Fantasy here. And I'm going to discuss, it's just some information that came to hand. Also, in my SuperCoach video, there's a couple of things I forgot to mention that I wanted to bring up. And I'm going to discuss, like I said, my official trades and my official captaincy options as well. So just quickly, the injury report came out. We know that Walsh is 1 to 2 weeks away. So for me, that affects my SuperCoach team because I've got Jack Carroll. And Walsh, when Walsh comes in, it may affect Jack Carroll's role. So hopefully Carroll can make a little bit more cash before Walsh comes in. Hopefully Carroll holds his spot as well, but I'll just keep an eye on his break even, trade him out when I need to. So Zach Reed is coming back in 3 weeks. So if you've got Zach Reed, then you may want to hold, because as soon as he's fit, he's going to come back into that team. But for me, in SuperCoach, it's not really an issue. I upgraded him to D'Ambrosio a few weeks ago, but in Fantasy, I do have him, but I am actually trading him out this week, and I'll go through my trades and explain why it fits what I'm planning to do. So I'll go through that in a moment. Now, we've been told that Sean Darcy is due to play in round 5. So now this, of course, affects any Jackson owners. So I've got Jackson in SuperCoach and Fantasy. So starting in SuperCoach, Jackson so far, he's made 34K, which is great. It's what I was hoping for. And he's scored 113, 178, and 98. So he's done his job. When I brought him in, or when I started him, my plan was to trade him out when Darcy came in. Now, it may be, depending on how that works, because next week, Sydney players are my priority. So Jordan in particular, to trade is my priority. So I might be able to trade Jackson and Jordan and upgrade them both, because I might use a boost to do it. But in Fantasy, I've only got 2 trades. So it may end up being that next week I upgrade Jackson, or I can't upgrade Jackson. I might hold him and then upgrade Jordan. I'll see anyway with next week and how that plays out. But with Darcy, yeah, the general rule is that, well, my rule was that we know how Jackson plays when Darcy's in the team. He doesn't score nowhere near as well as he does when Darcy's out of the team. So my plan was to trade him out. Now, maybe that first week when Darcy comes back in, Jackson may still score quite well. Maybe they might manage Darcy's minutes. But it's pretty clear that we do need to get Jackson out. He will bleed cash, I think, and his average will drop. So I think he's in a prime position for me to trade him up to an English. And then I've got my ruck set, Gone English. That will be my rucks for the year. Now, the other bit of information that's probably more relevant to SuperCoach is that Carl Warner was a test. So he comes back from concussion. He's a 134K defender. He scored a 63, but we'll wait till he comes back, scores again on the bubble, and then I may look at trading Hoare to Carl Warner, because as we know, Hoare now is out for 3 to 4 weeks. So he will be an option. I don't really think he's an option in Fantasy. He's 286K, but maybe that's a bit expensive, particularly because we have some other options in defence. So looking at Supercoach, we've got Will Graham, who's debuting for Gold Coast this week. He's a 117k defender mid. And we've got Sam Clowassy as well. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. He's a 102k defender. And then with fantasy, I think they're both. I think Clowassy definitely is a 200k defender. Yeah, he is. But Will Graham, I think maybe a little bit more. Yes, he's 225k defender. But they're ones to look out for, particularly Sam Clowassy. So I think last year, I did look this up already, but I forgot to keep the stats up. But he played in the VFL, played a large number of games, and I think he averaged around that 70 mark, 70 points. But in the last 5 games, he averaged 95, and that's fantasy points. He averaged 95. So, and he's like 21, so he's kind of a mature age player as well. I think he's one to keep in mind, and after his 2 games, if he's got his job security and he's still playing and he's scoring well, I may choose to trade Hoare down to him for Supercoach in fantasy. He is actually in my plans. I do plan to bring him in, and I'll explain my trades in a moment. Now, we've also been informed that Wines is out for a week. I think was it hamstring maybe issues. He's in Supercoach. He's actually scoring quite well. 94, 99, 96. That's not too bad. But now Horne-Francis comes into the team, and maybe his score might be affected. But the question is, do you hold on to him? We've been told he's only missing a week, but I don't know. It's hard to trust Ken Hinckley anymore. Like, he was the one you could trust last year. But this year, I think he's been a little bit more deceptive with his information. Like, we think about what he said about Horne-Francis, just missing a week, and then he's missed a few weeks there now. So it makes you think, like, is Wines only missing a week, or could it be more than that? I'm a little bit unsure. I mean, if you've got no other pressing issues in Supercoach, you're probably holding him. I think in fantasy, he's been an option to trade for the last couple of weeks anyway. I mean, I trade Wines last week to Crouch, and that has obviously worked out well for me. But if you still own Wines, I think in fantasy, you're definitely trading. In Supercoach, there is the option to hold him if he is only out for 1 week. Winhager is suspended for 1 week. He's got the role. He's playing in the midfield. CBAs are high. So if you own him in Supercoach, you're probably holding, I guess. I can see you trading him out in fantasy because you've got the 2 trades a week. We're still yet to see any real performance from him. But that was the same with Nick Martin. He had the role. We're just waiting for that to come through, and it came through last week. So with Winhager, I think that if he's got the role, he should put out some decent scores. But that's a tough one as to what you decide to do with him if you own him. Now, Taylor Adams is coming in this week. That's a definite. He's playing in the midfield/forward line. His minutes will probably be managed, but we'll be really keen to see how that impacts Isaac Heaney. So I've got Isaac Heaney in my team, and in both teams, in Supercoach and Fantasy. So I'm going to keep a close eye on Adams and how he plays. Is he an option to bring in? Well, definitely not. I think that in both competitions, he'll probably lose a little bit of money. And then maybe we could bring him in if he starts scoring well. I really did think that he was going to be a good pick at the start of the year, and that was, you kind of get hit and miss with some of these predictions, and for the most part, most of my predictions have been pretty good and spot on, but on occasion you get them wrong, and Adams was one that I got wrong, but you never know, he may come back and start scoring well. But the main thing here is how he is going to impact Heaney, so let's keep a close eye on this game. Now, Sydney has West Coast this week, so they should score quite well. You'd expect Heaney and Jordan to score well, but how Adams will impact their roles, we'll wait and see. Now, with my SuperCoach video, there was a couple of things I forgot to mention. And firstly, it was those on the bubble. So that's Tom Brown for Richmond. So he's a 154k defender. He's got a negative 35 break even. 63 and 60 are his scores. Not sure about his job security, but I think that's sort of the kind of scores he's getting, around that 60 mark. How much money he will make, is he going to get to that 150k? I'm not sure. So for me, I'm holding out. I'm not really going for a Tom Brown this week in SuperCoach. In fantasy, I don't even think he is an option. Let's see. Yeah, see, he's 400k, so you wouldn't even think about it. But in SuperCoach, maybe an option if you're desperate for a defender this week. The other one is Draper. That's Joshua Draper for Fremantle. He's a 123k defender, a negative 32 break even. 35 and 68 are his scores. He actually looked pretty good last week. Hopefully he's got that job security. Again, if you're desperate, he might be one to bring in, maybe over Tom Brown. But yeah, in fantasy, he's a 228k defender. So yeah, he is an option to bring in. Scores of 30 and 49. If you're desperate for a defender, then he's one to bring in. But I would probably be bringing in a Sam Closey instead of a Draper. Again, that's a risky option to bring in because we don't know about his job security. But, in fantasy, if it doesn't work, I'm sure we can find another week to rectify that trade. Now, the other thing I didn't mention in the SuperCoach trades, in my SuperCoach video, was the GWS and Gold Coast players. And I think I did mention in my fantasy video, but in my SuperCoach I didn't. So pretty much it's just 4 to 5 players we're maybe considering. So Green is the obvious one. Whitfield as well from GWS to bring in. Miller and Flanders, and in both competitions, in fantasy and SuperCoach, they are definitely options to bring in. All those players are going to score very, very well for the year. They are keepers. Flanders will be, like an F1, 2, or 3, depending how the rest of the year goes. But he will be in that top 6. So if you're getting a Flanders now in your forward line, he's a keeper. Green also a keeper. He'll be a top 8 mid, obviously. Whitfield looks like he'll be a top 6 defender, so they're all keepers. Will Miller be a top 8 mid? I'm hoping he will be. I'm hoping he stays around that 120 average, but for the most part, he will be in your team. You could definitely keep him. He'll definitely likely be a top 10 midfielder. So all those players, if you bring them in, then they're going to be in your team for good. The only thing with that is playing the cash game. So do you bring in some of these players this week or next week? So in SuperCoach, because I guess the option is do you trade a Jordan this week or next week? Well, if you're going to trade Jordan to Flanders, I think might be a popular trade. So James Jordan, he's got a 44 break even. He should, against West Coast, get like 70 or 80 points. He should go up about, 15k, something like that. And then we could probably trade him next week. But do you pull that trigger now and trade Jordan to Flanders now? Well, in SuperCoach, Flanders break-even is only 73. Now, if he gets a 116, he goes up 20k. Now, there's every chance he may only get around 100, 105. But, hopefully Jordan and Flanders kind of go up the same amount this week. Likely Flanders will go up just a little bit more. So I think for me, I'm wanting to address some other things first I feel are more important, and I think I will do the Jordan to Flanders trade next week in SuperCoach. In fantasy, it's kind of the same thing. I think I'm not missing out too much with Flanders in fantasy because his break-even is like 96. So I don't think he's going to go up by too much. And with Jordan, his break-even is 54. So I actually think they will probably go up roughly the same amount. So I could wait till next week to do Jordan to Flanders, I think. But yeah, I'm going to have to weigh up the whole Jackson thing next week as well. Whether I trade Jackson out or not next week, hold maybe a week, trade the week after. That one I don't really know at this stage. I'm just going to have to weigh it up next week. So they're your players. Obviously, you've got Harvey Thomas if you're desperate for a rook in the forward line. And he's 267k in fantasy. You know, he just went nuts against the Eagles and scored 100 in round 2. And break even of negative 22. So he could be a cash cow. In SuperCoach, he's actually already gone up quite a bit. So he's gone up 57k, negative 52 break even. If we bring him in, you know, will he make that extra 150k that we need? It is an option, but there are other options to bring in this round, other rookies. And so this is where I'm going to get into my trades for this week. So in SuperCoach, my plan is to trade Fife for Dempsey. I'm making 2 trades. That's my first trade. So Fife hasn't worked out as well as I would have liked. He is averaging 80, so you can't knock that. But I think for what I want to achieve and restructure for my team, I think that may have to be the trade I want to make. And the reason why is because I feel that Dempsey, even though I should have traded him in last week, I've missed that, and I've missed that 70k jump. So that hurts. But I do feel he will make a 150k from here. He needs to average around 70 or, you know, a bit over 70. I think I probably need to go back and look at that, but I think that's the amount, and I think he can do that. He's averaging 80 at the moment. He's got scores of 96, 59, 86. He will get those 60 games every now and then, but he's got a really good role, and he looks really good, and he's just moving up and down that wing and going into defense and attack and along the wing. So I'm really happy with him. I've already got him in fantasy. I'm so glad I brought him in when I did, because I got him in early. But yeah, in SuperCoach, I'm definitely bringing him in. I think he will average maybe around the same as Fife, but I get to make 100k in that trade. So I've got 100k in the bank. The other trade in SuperCoach I'm going to make is Wilson for Darcy. I think Wilson could make a little bit more money, but if you have a look at his projected scores and his likely average, he's not really making all that much. It's just a few dollars every week. And I think I really want to take advantage of Darcy. I mean, it's a massive risk with Darcy because his job security is not very good. Like, you know, Bevo could just drop him and bring in Rory Lobb. That's every chance of that. So I'm hoping Sam Darcy gets named this week. He's got a negative 92 break even because he's got that 109 in his price cycle from round 2 and only a 54 he scored last week. But playing against Geelong, you know, this week, I'm pretty sure that if he's playing, he should score, you know, decently. But yeah, I want to take advantage and hopefully, make a bit of cash off him. So those are my 2 trades. You know, I just want to shore up my rooks. You know, getting the right rookies is so important. And I don't really like sideways trading. I did mention that I was going to trade Rosie out, and just every time I look at my midfield, it just doesn't feel right seeing Rosie there and not seeing Butters there. Because that was a big part of my research, was having Butters. Rosie wasn't in my research at all, and I brought him in the last week, and that's just a mistake on my part. Now, that's not saying Rosie's going to have a bad year. It's just that in all my research, I didn't think that Rosie had a lot of upside, nowhere near as much as what I think Butters would have had. And Rosie so far hasn't really performed that well, and a lot of that's to do with just his inaccuracy, his inefficiency. But hopefully this week he can have a good game. I'm going to keep him in my team at least for a few weeks, and if he's just not performing, then that's not ideal, I guess. And same with LDU. I'm still holding LDU. I mean, my rule is that you hold on to your premiums. My research showed that LDU should have a good year this year, so I'm holding on to him, at least in SuperCoach. I think he'll do well. In fantasy, I think it's a bit different. So yeah, he scored 121, 105, and then got that team tag of 67 against Carlton. So those are my trades. for SuperCoach for fantasy. My trades will be, where are we? So I'm pretty happy keeping everything the way it is. Like, even with my SuperCoach team, I'm pretty happy with the structure and the main players I got and the premiums I've got. So I'm pretty happy with fantasy as well. The only thing I'm unhappy with, again, is LDU. So I just think he's underperforming at the moment with fantasy. I've got those 2 trades every week, so there's a bit more flexibility with making movements and changes. So for me, I am actually trading out Reed for Cloacy. So that'll give me a little bit of money. I'll get 44k out of that trade. And then with the 50k that I've got in my salary, I'm actually upgrading, I guess it's an upgrade, LDU to Jack Steele. Jack Steele is in great nick, and his stats are actually showing that he is going to have a good year because he's tackling and getting contested possessions, and when he's doing that, he scores well. I mean, look at those scores: 108, 120, 124. I want Steele in my team, so I'll be very happy having Green, Butters, Steele, Martin, Crouch. I'm very happy with that midfield for now. And then having Roberts, McCurch, and Sanders. I'll definitely ride that out for many weeks. Happy with my defense as well. Dacos, Sheasel, Young, Yo, D'Ambrosio, Williams. This is my fantasy team if you're just listening and not watching. And I've got Gawn and Jackson in my rucks. That I will address Jackson later within the next couple of weeks, next week or the week after. Heaney, got to keep an eye on his role. Otherwise, I'm going to have to trade him out if he's not getting as much midfield time. But I would like to keep him. Powell, I'll have him for a while. Jordan, I'll upgrade. Fife, I will downgrade for cash. Sexton as well. I've got Sexton in for the moment. His break-even's 41. Actually, that's one I didn't actually mention. So with Will Graham and Sam Cloacy coming in, how does it affect Sexton's role? Does he get dropped and he's not playing half back, or does he stay in the team but he moves back to his old role of playing up forward? If that's the case, then you got to get him out. I think those in fantasy would have already traded him out. I'm just holding him because I'd rather do the Reed to Cloacy role, particularly next week with Dacos out of the team, to be able to bring in Blake Howes and then to have Cloacy on the bench, and then I can do a little loophole, maybe a Blake Howes and Cloacy loophole if Cloacy's playing again next week. So yeah, that's that trade that I'm going to make. So I'm pretty happy. So with Sexton, I'll hold him another week, and maybe he'll be the one I trade next week for cash. I don't know. Just wait and see. And that's the same with SuperCoach as well. But with SuperCoach, it's a bit different because he's got a -5 break even, and he's already made 49k. So he's due to make a little bit more money. If he can score a 47 this week, he makes another 24k. So, I think he's worth holding for just one more week. So they're my trades. As far as my captains go, I will be going Max Gawn, and that's just purely because of the loophole option. So Max Gawn plays tonight, and so I've only got Livingston to loophole. I've got Hoare as well, but Hoare plays tonight, so I can't use him. And well, it also depends on the teams that come out later today. But at this stage, it will be Gawn as my vice captain. I did have Heaney as my captain, but I'm a little bit unsure how Adams may impact this role, and I think it's just safer having Green as my captain against Gold Coast. Sarong, I'm also not as confident to put the VC on, and that's just because of the way that Carlton sort of teamed up against LDU. And Sarong is the main midfielder for Fremantle, and I could see a little, Hewitt and Kennedy and these different types of players just all kind of teaming up on Sarong and limiting his influence. So, look, I own Sarong, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping he has a massive score, but I just think that Green is probably the safer option for the captaincy. It's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Because it's Tom Green, so he likely will score well. For fantasy, I'm doing the same thing. So I've got Gawn as my VC, I've got Green as my captain, and I'll use Harry Barnett as the loophole if he is not playing. If he is playing, I'm going to have to... Well, I could actually still do that. Actually, no, because I'm trading. I was going to use Zachary, but now I'm trading Zachary to Cloasy. So, yeah, I'm going to have to think about that, because if I don't have a loophole, then it probably doesn't really matter, because I got Green as my captain anyway. So if I can't use Gawn, I'm happy just falling back on Green if Barnett is named or is playing. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly share that with you guys, and hopefully, just some of this info can help with how you're going to set up your team for this week. So again, all the best for this week, and I'll catch you at the end of round 4. All the best. See ya.